What's up, everybody? What's up, football fans? What's up, soccer fans? This is another episode of MoFutbol, and today I have one of my good friend, Jeremy. We talk soccer from St. Louis soccer, worldwide soccer. We may not follow the same English team, but at the end of the day, we're soccer fans in general. So, Jeremy, my friend, belated happy birthday. How you doing?
I can't complain. Had to break out a little bit of local and international flavor. Got the World Cup Trianda ball in the background. My United kit, fresh off a win against Liverpool at Anfield. Unfortunately, Oscar's not on this show, so I can't rub it in his face a little bit. But we've also, if I remember right, I think we beat Chelsea. Is that right, Mo? No, no. But in all seriousness, thank you and doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Excellent. Yeah, I don't even remember you guys beating us, but we still have more trophies. So, and we're world champions.
Ouch.
But yeah, so those are the banters that we typically have in our private chat and also on the Top Corner Talk podcast, where Jeremy, Oscar, and sometime Charlie comes in and talk about everything St. Louis soccer. But that's fast forward a lot of years of soccer. So, Jeremy, for those people that may not know you or lived under a rock, just tell them a little bit of who Jeremy is prior to soccer.
So we'll go start with college. So I actually am was a journalism major, graduated from Webster University way back in 2011. I feel super old at this point, Mo. Unfortunately, time doesn't stop. But no, worked in radio professionally for 5 years at WBGZ in Alton. Did play-by-play, was a news anchor and reporter on the weekends, did sports coverage, all those good things there. And then transitioned into healthcare and IT, which is what I do now. But then most recently just started getting into more and more talking about soccer. My social media, whether it's Twitter, Blue Sky, occasionally Facebook, it's 99.9% soccer probably. And it ended up getting me into conversations with Mick from Lighthouse Media. And I started writing for them this season. And then one thing led to another. And I joined you guys here or over on the Top Corner Talk channel, just kind of as a fill-in at first. And then you guys picked up my option, just like Diego picked up a bunch of options for City this past week. And now, I've been on the program for a little while. That isn't the start of my soccer story, but we can get back, wind the clock way back if we want to go there too.
Of course, we had to pick up your DP option. That's the only the proper way to do it. But yes, so it looks like we almost have some sort of the where we end it in IT, so that which is the fun part. But you have the United kits, but before that fandom. So how did you first get introduced to soccer, and what's that story behind that?
Yeah, so way back in 1994, if I can make myself any older, jeez. No, way back in 1994, I was one of those kids in the small town in Illinois, about 10,000 people, small town of Bethalto, and we've got a boys and girls club, and so I was involved in all the different sports they did. At the time, it was really just baseball and then soccer. So back in 1994, one of those wee little kids that run around in chaotic soccer where you don't know what's going on. You just know where the ball is because there's a massive group of kids running around.
Right.
And then so I played boys and girls club soccer every fall. Rec league, again, it's not select. It's not the fancy stuff. My family didn't have money for any of that kind of stuff, and that's okay. I admittedly, I wasn't good enough for any of that anyway. But no, I played all the way through, until I aged out, got into high school, played my freshman, sophomore, and junior years of high school. I never cracked the varsity squad. I was always a JV guy. That was okay. I was a starter. I grew up as a striker, had a nose for goal. That was, it wasn't a glory thing. I just ended up figuring out how to put the ball in the net, and that's what I was good at. Unfortunately, when I got into high school, the nose for goal wasn't what my coaches saw. They saw speed, because before I grew and put on a belly, I was pretty quick. So they were like, "Oh, you're going to be our left back who can try to, kind of a Thomas Totland, Conrad Vollum situation where I've got speed. I can ping a pass a little bit." And so that's what they wanted me to do. And I was a wing back in high school, but senior year came, and was at that point I'm like, well, I don't have a collegiate career in soccer ahead of me. It's time to focus on academics. So I hung up the cleats. I did intramurals in college, just for fun, but transitioned into journalism in college, wrote about the soccer team, covered the Webster Gorlocks here and there, traveled with them a few different times to different tournaments. And they were and still are a Division III program. So again, not super up there in the terms of collegiate ranks, but they're nationally known for in terms of Division III soccer. They usually make a good run in the postseason in their own tournament, right? So yeah, but that's kind of my story. And I went into journalism in college because well, I'm going to tell you the truth is I knew I wasn't good enough to play, so I figured I'd do the next best thing and cover it and talk about it.
Hey, but that's the best part, right? Not everybody will be kicking the ball or being the coach or within the teams, but you
Yep.
still would stay within the ecosystem of soccer.
Yep.
And like we always say, right, your involvement is not just there. There's plenty of other places that can lead you to enjoy soccer just in general. So,
Yep.
and especially speaking to I guess where he grew up in 10,000 people. So when it
Yep.
comes to soccer, was that just baseball and soccer just due to where the community soccer was?
Oh,
And
no. No, I mean that's a great question, but no. So actually, in my town, I'd say baseball, basketball, football. Football is probably the first most the biggest thing people pay attention to in the high school age range, and even now lower. Baseball was much bigger, and even some of the other thing, even wrestling in high school was a bigger deal than soccer. Soccer was really kind of an afterthought. And I will say that it's the community that I grew up in has taken a lot of strides, and it's grown a lot. They've got select leagues now. They've got some traveling teams that kind of serve as a way for the kids that are more ahead or more advanced in skills to grow, and then they take that and they do that, and then they get into either travel league in high school, or they play high school soccer, or they do both. But it's been great to see that grow in the community. But when I grew up, unfortunately, no, it was that we didn't even have a really good. It was probably junior or senior year of high school, even before we had a decent indoor facility. So, like in the off season, by the time I was a senior, kids were playing the typical high school season, and then they would immediately go into an indoor season before the next high school season, or the next calendar flipped around for that. So one other piece of the story that I completely forgot too was I did very briefly referee for the Boys and
there you
Girls
go.
Club too. So I did once I aged out of playing for the Boys and Girls Club, I transitioned into both umpiring baseball. That wasn't very fun. Well, because the parents in that were a headache. And soccer wasn't as bad because the parents there didn't expect anybody to know what was going on with
Yeah.
soccer. They just cared if nobody got hurt and the kids had fun.
Nice. Well, and at least yeah, I think that's one of those things where you're talking, back in the days in the US and soccer, how the pockets of towns and big small towns that introduce soccer to the world, and with time people start to play, get a little bit more involved. So I'm always curious to know, especially for the small communities that have 10,000 people, how does soccer come into play? So
Yeah.
was there any name or anyone that kind of was had a spotlight when he says, hey, that person did come from my town when it comes to soccer?
Not with soccer, unfortunately. There was one player from my town that played for the Chicago Bears named Joe
Okay.
Odom. So that got all the notoriety and attention. There hasn't, to my knowledge, been anybody from Bethalto that's done a lot with soccer. We I think there have been some folks that have, like, through the years, people have had kind of high hopes for, or
Right.
high expectations, but those haven't really come to fruition either. I think what really got me a lot like it kept me going in soccer was my circle of friends in high school. That's how I got into United. Was
Yeah.
my best friend at the time started. He liked Chicago Fire.
Yeah.
I don't like Chicago, so I was like, okay, well, who do I like? Black and Red, DC United is where I gravitated to. So as I started playing video games, I was Ben Olsen, Brian McBride, guys
Oh,
that
yeah.
played for the USA. I started playing. I find out what teams they played for. Landon Donovan went abroad, played a couple different places. So
Yeah.
that's how I got introduced into the European football scene, was just through Landon Donovan. Now I'm not a fan of Fulham or the teams he played for, but that got me into the Premier League. And like I said, my best friend ended up he was a goalie, and so he looked at the time to Peter Schmeichel and Edward van der Sar. And
Not
so
too bad.
to unite, well, so they were United legends.
Yep.
Therefore, he's a United fan. He's
Yep.
like, hey, let me introduce you to this team. I started following United, fell in love with guys like Paul Scholes, Michael Carrick, Wayne Rooney. Of course, that's during the infancy and the beginning of the days of Cristiano Ronaldo coming up. Sir Alex Ferguson, the glory days that have got me clinging to this badge for dear life right now. But that's how I got into United, and then from there it just kind of grew. I started, we're in a world now where if you have the means a little bit, you can get exposed to, on any given weekend, you can see Bundesliga matches, you can see championship matches, you can see Serie A, you can see so much soccer from around the world. It's crazy to think, but that's, I kind of have a loose following of Napoli in Serie A,
Yep.
Dortmund in Germany. And I think it's going to even get more for our city fan base, because we start hearing names, St. Pauli, for example, with Marcel Hartl. How many people would have said they knew where St. Pauli was before we brought over Marcel Hartl? So
not many.
Yeah, so no, but that's the rounded out story of where Jeremy is and how Jeremy got to where he is today with soccer.
So do you remember, I guess, your very first United game that you watched on TV?
Oh.
And if you know if that was against who, or why? Because your friend introduced you to Manchester United, so that's one thing with the name. But or if there's one game that you've watched that was like, yeah, that's my team.
So it wasn't a game that I watched live, but I went back and watched the Champions League final where United came back. I believe it was against Bayern Munich to complete the treble season, where Solskjaer scored the winning goal in stoppage time. But I'm going to be honest with you, Mo. The games that I remember the most now, unfortunately, are the ones we've lost. Like the ones a lot of the ones that stick with me are like the Champions League final. I believe we lost to Chelsea, and was it 2008, something like that? We lost to you guys. The whooping we got against Liverpool 7-0 years ago.
Yep.
Those stick with you when you're a fan, right? Like that's the thing. Like the good times, you take them for granted. You enjoy the ride, but the bad ones really jump. But Rooney's goal, like Rooney had a crazy bicycle kick against Manchester City in a derby match.
It's all there.
I don't forget that one. Some of some of the play, you hear guys like Patrice Evra. I love Patrice Evra. I follow him on social media to this day.
He's hilarious.
He's great. So man, no, I don't remember, to your question, the first game I watched, but I mean, there's been a lot of ups and downs, and but you fall in love with it. But you fall in love with the game, man, and it's just crazy. How you kind of live and die with the team through the good and the bad.
Yeah, it's testing your fandom at this moment with Man United. So at least you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and hopefully maybe the uglier, depending on who we root for. So with that, say if we go and fast forward to so you went to the 94, but and that you got introduced to soccer, and then you went to England with, unfortunately, Manchester United. And then after that, was there any other team that you maybe were fond of watching them play?
I think as I just kind of got introduced to soccer, I really for a brief spell, I really, like I said, Borussia Dortmund in Germany. I really loved the passion, the pageantry, that yellow wall. Just
Yep.
as I first started watching Bundesliga games, I really liked. I really really liked Dortmund, and it's crazy. I hate the color yellow. It's like it is my absolute least favorite color. So like that's to this day why I don't own a Dortmund kit because
Ouch.
I have to find one of their primarily black kits,
Right.
and then I will eventually buy one. But I just watching Berkey, and this is crazy. Berkey, that's part of like also when we signed Berkey, the day City announced the signing of Berkey, I didn't believe it. I thought it was a lie. I'm like, there is no way this can't be true. Because at that point I was a Dortmund fan. I'm like, no way. The keeper from Dortmund is coming to St. Louis. No, but it happened, and I've got I think 3 Berkey kits now.
Wow.
Yeah. So well, I mean, one of them was an all-star game kit that I put
It's
Berkey's name
still
on
a
the
kid.
back of. But no. So Dortmund was one. Um, when I first got into Italian football, my younger brother is, for whatever reason, with international football, he always loved Italy. So
Okay.
like Christian Vieri was his favorite player
Oh,
for a
beast mode.
long time, and then he liked Mario Balotelli and became a
Yeah.
City fan, Manchester City, which he and I won't talk about that. But in any event, but no, so I still and I could still remember to this day, even going back to before I started playing high school. You asked me about games I remember.
Right.
2006 World Cup final, Italy France.
Why we have to talk about that?
No. It's not. No, because no, I can tell you, I was in an airport in the city of Indianapolis
Right.
watching that game with my brother. Because my family had bought a dog, and then the
Right.
dog came from Florida and had to be flown in, and the closest place they could fly to was Indy. So
Mhm.
we drove to Indy, picked up this dog, but my brother and I watched that game, and he's not had a happy soccer moment since. But but no, because Italy's been not great.
They sold they sold
Yeah,
their soul to the
to get
devil
that World
in
Cup.
'06 for the World Cup, and they
Right.
never came back.
But no, that like fueled my that was a huge jumping off point, because from that, my brother and I every year would buy what was then FIFA, the FIFA franchise, and
Nice.
now it's EAFC,
Yep.
and we would buy that, and then eventually through video games, we have formed this like group of 6 or 7 guys. We have played FIFA or other games together now for like almost 20 years, playing together and playing all things, like a lot of FIFA, playing pro clubs together.
Mhm.
And I mean, we're talking guys that support Arsenal, support Chelsea, support United. My brother has kind of fallen off of the soccer world, but a lot of different guys. They're not from Illinois. One of them lives in Florida, the others are in Philadelphia and different parts of Pennsylvania. So
Yeah.
it's wild to think about the different things that have come together. One of them is a Chelsea fan. Actually, 2 of them are Chelsea fans.
They're the
Um,
smartest of your friends.
So, so I've rambled on a little bit here, and I
Yeah.
apologize,
No.
but no, man, it's crazy just how different pieces of all of this come together to like that passion. So, of course, I've started following AC Milan closer because Christian Pulisic is there, right?
Of course.
We've got Juventus and Weston McKennie. I was watching their Champions League game against Real Madrid midweek because Weston McKennie was there. So as the international game grows and you start to try to find ways to follow a lot of these clubs, or I'm trying to think, Como. I started watching Como for 2 different reasons. One, Nico Giacchini was there,
Yep.
but 2, then Rafa Varane went there.
Yep.
Or like you start to watch in the Eredivisie, Robin van Persie, I believe, is coaching Feyenoord in the Eredivisie, I believe. So like you start to develop these things where you watch guys, you start watching them as players, you enjoy watching them, and then you start to watch their careers after they retire to see
Yep.
where do they go, right? So like I just mentioned Van Persie, Michael Carrick was at Middlesbrough. Other than them having a badge that I thought was cool, I wouldn't have been watching Middlesbrough if it wasn't for Michael Carrick managing there. So, it's that is I don't know if that makes me like a different level of fan than most, but it's like, it's just one of those things that's the journey that I've had as a soccer fan is I grew up watching these guys. You develop a fondness, a
Yep.
liking of them, and you just follow them. I mean, I really wish it would have worked out with Wayne Rooney as a manager in DC. Couldn't do
Yeah.
it there. He even went back to England in the championship. It couldn't make it work there either. So, or Gary Neville's a pundit on BBC. So I believe it is, or one of those English
And then
networks.
his brother is in the US.
Yeah, and that was one of the coolest things too. Is I when I realized that I was like, oh my god, it's Phil Neville. I got to take a picture of Phil Neville
Yep.
because I remember playing with Phil Neville back on EAFC.
And I think that's the awesome part. I mean, like you mentioned, right? Seeing the players and then now following the teams that they're coaching. And then Cesc Fabregas is also coaching Como. So it's
Yep.
always that fascinating part to seeing the progression of first kicking the ball to now they have to teach the youth how to play it. And I love that story that you mentioned that, you and your friends 20 plus years still are taking the time to enjoy that game just because of what soccer represents. So I think we all have our path to stay within soccer and find the enjoyment. Is just that we all have to find that special moment that you can share with everybody on and off the stadiums or even I guess your local bar and others. So I'm definitely like that story. But I think one thing, so growing up like with your brothers now,
Yep.
since you just mentioned it, so now there's a United fan and a City fan. How is that brotherly hood, brotherness, friendliness, especially where City is up here and
Yeah.
Manchester United is down there? How does it?
Well, so I mean, so I would say this: if he actually followed soccer anymore, it would be a lot worse.
Okay, good.
By the grace of God, he has quit. He has quit. He's fallen kind of off of the soccer thing. The only thing
Okay,
he cares about now is the Italian national team.
okay.
He even used to be a Juventus fan. Like that was the team that he picked, but that was because Pirlo was there for
Can't
ages.
go. Can't blame him.
Yeah, because Pirlo after Vieri retired, Pirlo was his favorite player. But yeah, so no, but I mean, as far as my brother goes, I mean, the reason he and I and our relationship with soccer was he played too, so he would
Okay,
play. Actually, my twin sister and my brother both played. Same kind of thing, boys girls club all the way, until they aged out
nice.
of that too. So I mean, we kind of all three played, but beyond that, my brother and I, every time there was an international game in St. Louis, well, and I'm not talking like national team only. I'm talking the clubs. Like
Right.
we had the very first time we had a Premier League game at Bush. It was City against Chelsea.
I was there.
My brother and I were there. We went to the Roma Liverpool match together. We went to the Real Madrid Inter Milan game at the Dome
Yep.
together. We went to almost every game, every national team game for a while. He would go to until he quit caring about Team USA and was full on Italy, which is okay.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, if he followed soccer anymore, he's all in on the NFL. He's a Miami Dolphins fan, and that's a misery train that I feel bad that he's on.
Okay.
But as you basically, we bond now in sadness because he's a
Okay.
miserable Dolphins fan and I'm a miserable United and City fan because St. Louis almost had the wooden spoon this year.
So at least he kind of lucked out.
Yeah.
Because if he was keep following City for a little bit longer, it would have been very bad time for you.
I never would have had he's the kind of guy I never would have stopped hearing about it. He would have constantly reminded me about Pep, and especially if he was following now and they had just won a treble, because that was United's biggest claim. And so we won a treble. No one else in England has won a treble. Can't make that claim anymore.
But wait a second. So you mentioned twin sister.
Yep.
So Jeremy has a twin sister. So how is that relationship when it comes to like soccer and twin sister? Is there rivals there? Tell us a little bit more. Come on.
Was there a rivalry? I mean, I won't lie. When we were playing against each other,
Right.
I might have been happy that my team won and her team lost every single game. That makes me an asshole, but I
No,
mean,
just competitor.
no,
That's all.
her team, no, the team she was on was bad. They had fun, but they didn't win, and I may or may not have. Now, granted, the crazy thing was the way the Boys and Girls Club season worked, at least when I played, was we played the regular season and the season was done, but at the very end, they played just a tournament, right?
Right.
And so her team didn't win a single game all year. Somehow they won the tournament, and that's fine. So they
Okay.
got but so she was happy at the end of the season because she got final bragging rights. But nonetheless, no, there's a little bit of a rivalry there. Not anymore. No, she is trying to. I'm trying to slowly ease her back into soccer. She knows nothing about any of the European leagues or anything like that. She very, very, very loosely follows the national team. Basically, when I drag her to games, but she has come to a couple of city games. She asked to come hang out in the supporters section. She's gotten to meet a bunch of people. She came over to the Santos, one of the Santos parties, and met Oscar, and met some of the Santos folks. She met No Goal Patrol people. So I'm kind of introducing her slowly to that. I think she got to meet the Fandalorian. She took her picture with the Fandalorians.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm slowly getting her into it. I think she went to 2 games this year. She's got a couple kits now, so I don't know that she has a favorite player yet.
Yeah.
But that's okay. But yeah, she's slowly coming back into the soccer stuff, which is
So
good.
it sounds like our project 2026 is to have her pick a favorite soccer player and become a sicko like us. Is that the goal?
That would be my goal. Yeah, I would love to be able to bring her to more games and to have her say, yeah, I have a favorite player. I know I think she's leaning towards Berkey, but I think that's just because she likes I think that's just because she likes the different color jerseys he gets to wear.
Yeah, nice.
But you know what? If that's what she wants to define her criteria to be to define a player, for now, I'll live with it as long as he gets her into the park and enjoying the game.
Yeah, hey, there's a lot of people that have picked their favorite soccer teams or sport team in general because of how the kit and jersey. So I definitely can see that part. So so it looks like Jeremy, brother, sister, all had their piece of the world of soccer. So just have it fast forwarded to 2023. But right before that, how was it like to know that the MLS was running, the St. Louis was not represented, even though there is the historical and the archive that shows that St. Louis probably should have been one of the MLS 1.0 team. How was that prior to them joining? And how was that experience when you first heard that they were stuck until the first game of the season?
Sure. So I will say before St. Louis had an MLS franchise, I very loosely followed MLS. Like I said, I was kind of I was like one of those like DC United guys who I'd watch from afar, but back then the games weren't as accessible as they are now, right? You didn't have one channel to go to, so you might see something on ESPN, you might see something on Fox. It would kind of depend. So I would kind of watch from afar with DC, but it didn't really. It wasn't the full feeling of passion. It was like, oh great, they're good, or oh crap, they suck. It was, and when they won, it'd be like, yeah, cool, they won, great, woohoo. But it wasn't that feeling of pride or accomplishment that you feel as a fan. So St. Louis gets, they're talking about MLS. We bring in, I think they were USL and St. Louis FC, and I wanted to support them as best as I could. Unfortunately, at that point, I wasn't in a position where I had a lot of disposable income, so I couldn't really make it out to soccer park. And I know the tickets weren't expensive or whatever for admission, but just I didn't have the means to get to the games. So like I have a couple pieces of merch. That was the most I could do, and I would kind of follow them through Facebook and social media. But when they made the announcement, and I also will say too, there's I think a part of this for me that ties into the NFL leaving. And I'm not going to go on the soapbox about that whole mess. I'm just going to say that before we had an MLS team, I was a diehard Rams fan. Win, lose, top, bottom, worst team in history for a period of time. I was a ride or die with those Rams. And when they left, it took, I don't follow the NFL nearly like I used to.
Yeah.
And so when I found MLS was getting a team, it was going to be an STL born, an STL created, an STL made thing. That's all I needed. I was all in. If I'm poker face, all my chips into the middle of the table, win, lose, I don't care. Let's go do this soccer thing, because I wanted so badly to have the ability to support something that was St. Louis created, and for the lack of a cheesy way to put it, St. Louis owned, because the ownership group is St. Louis based too.
Yep.
So I was all in, and it didn't matter win, lose, draw. I was all in, and then again, now it wasn't what I'm doing today. Like, again, social media, I'm doing data, I'm doing stats, I'm making graphics, I'm doing all this stuff. I wasn't doing any of that even a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. But my Facebook is blown up. I went to two or three games the first season, because tickets were crazy expensive at the time.
Yep.
And that's great. Hopefully we get back to a point where it's kind of like that again, because it means the team's good and they're in demand. But no, it's one of those things where I was all in on day one, and I'm still all in now, for better or for worse.
Yeah, and that's normal. So you mentioned the St. Louis own and St. Louis, I think, having the blueprint. So, and we know a lot of the American sports, they typically take a team away from one city and bring it just to the franchise way of doing soccer. So seeing how the team was all St. Louis owned, the history, even the front office and the back office, majority of them were St. Louis. So prior to that very first game, how would you describe like the pride of people around town knowing that they will be one of the, I guess we'll say, first capital of soccer was St. Louis finally having a team. How was that around town prior to that first game?
I mean, so again, I'm at the time living in Illinois. I would say the people that I knew in town that liked soccer were just as excited as I would, but it wasn't as big of a deal to them, because
Yeah.
again, like I mentioned earlier, Bethalto is a small town of about 10 to 11,000 people still. Most people, I'm going to be honest, most people in town, granted it's starting to get a little bit younger now, but most people are, 50s, 60s, maybe around a little older than that. So it's not people who grew up playing soccer, watching soccer, having a desire to be involved in soccer. So the excitement wasn't as big there. Now, if I went, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes away to a town called Edwardsville, I will tell you, I would see a lot more city stuff. Fairview Heights, more city stuff, more, and the feeling of excitement that I would get when I would notice, hey, he's wearing a city hat. Hey, he's got a city sticker on the back of his car. It was a cool feeling to just see people latching on to this. I hate politics, but it's almost like a political movement to become a fan of something that is just nice to have something we can all agree on, right?
Yeah.
But I liken that to the passion that you get when you start to see that, because it's just, it becomes something like you believe in and you are now a part of. And so, stopping somebody in the grocery store at one of those early days and saying, hey, how do you think this team is going to do? Hey, we've got a world-class goalkeeper. Can you believe they were able to get him? How do you think they did that? Hey, what do you know about this coach? Hey, what do you know about this? And through that, the friends you make. I'll admit, I knew absolutely nothing about the 1950 World Cup team that beat
Nope.
England, or the whatever. I knew nothing. Even being 30 minutes from St. Louis, growing up, I knew nothing about the guys from the Hill. I
Yeah.
knew zero. So, like, that opened my eyes to a whole nother world of history with St. Louis soccer that I didn't even know. Like, I knew the Steamers were a thing. I didn't know exactly much about them. I knew AC St. Louis was around, but I, again, didn't know much about them. So it's,
Yeah.
it's kind of like one of those things where I was familiar with them, but didn't know them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And so it sounds like having the team did not just bring a professional soccer team; it also unlocked a lot of the history and maybe the people that built what St. Louis soccer is, but did not get the appreciation or um, the view as they were expected, unless you were part of that small community of soccer fans. Would you
Yeah,
say?
no, I agree. Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to put it. Is it's you know there's soccer, but you don't, and you knew there's a history of soccer. I mean, SLU's been good for decades, but
Right.
again, I wasn't even familiar with SLU on that level. Had no idea how many different guys had gone to SLU and played professionally. Even our own Simon Betcher now, or others that have preceded him. So, um, yeah, it definitely opened the door to a deeper understanding of soccer beyond the MLS for St. Louis, for
Uh,
me.
Yes. And so how was the very first game? I know my story behind it, so I want to hear from you. How was that, preparing to go to the stadium, the drive to the stadium, entering that brand new stadium, and the first time hearing the chant
Yeah.
STL?
So, all right. So this is a little bit complicated to explain, but I'm gonna try to do my best. No. So here's why. So those who've seen me in the supporter section on game days, or even saw me on my birthday, I'm full on like I want to scream, I want to shout, I'm chanting, I'm moving, I'm dancing. You saw me in the capo stand on Saturday. Like that is my level of passion for this team. Uh, that I did not realize until probably the what was it, the CONCACAF Champions Cup game against Houston, where
Wow.
Kojima scored the winning goal.
Yeah.
That was the first game I was in the supporter section for. The every game that I went to the first season, I went with my best friend from high school, the guy that got me into following United.
Right.
He's a season ticket holder, but he's not one of those. He's not a supporter section guy. Let me just put it that way. He's
Yeah.
the I'm going to come. I'll stand if they're standing. Otherwise, I'm going to set. I'm going to watch. I'm going to analyze. I'm going to talk about the game, but I want nothing to do with the chanting. So
Right.
I say all this to tell you that I that very first day when I was like, I'm going to a city game, I've got a ticket, we're going, and I was so excited for that game. I could not wait. I was like, I still remember, I had my kit on. I was like, okay, I sat there trying to figure out what scarf to take.
Right.
I was thinking, like, this is as cheesy as it's going to get, but I have no problem admitting it because I don't care. I was sitting there like, I'm going to take I'm like, I'm doing the selfie thing with my
Yeah.
scarf. I'm super excited to be there. I was on cloud nine, just beyond excited walking into that stadium. Once I knew where the seats were, I took off. I had to explore. I
Yeah.
had to see what the new home was because I'm like, this is going to be home. This is where I want to spend my Saturday nights or my Saturday afternoons during the game. This is where I want to see. I want to grow with this club. This is where I want to be. So I went and I explored that stadium. I went up. I went down. Anywhere they would let me go, I went. I took pictures, and it was like next to the only game that I think I was probably more excited and more giddy to go to was the home opener this year because it was my first home opener.
Right.
But
Yes.
that was that day was an incredible, incredible day. And I believe, if I remember correctly, I believe the first game that I went to, I want to say we drew that game on a late penalty. Let me see here. I'll have to see if I can find that quickly. But I'm like 90% sure we drew that first game on a late penalty. I know I want to say it was New York that it was the first opponent, NYCFC, because I think the patch had the stat. It was either New York or DC because it either had the Eagle or the Statue of Liberty on it. I'm trying to see if
Okay.
I can track that down. But no, it was great.
Yes. And so before that, so I think
Yep.
so I think so yeah, so we had the first game of MLS. So what was your take on, like the experience of the first game and then maybe to the first season, since that was like the most magical one that most people now these days will want to repeat.
Um, man, just that's hard to answer because it was so the first game I went to, I actually just found it. It was a loss. We lost to Minnesota in the first game that I went to.
Yeah, of course, of all
But
teams.
that's okay.
Yes.
The whole point is though, like for a lot, I think for a lot of folks, you get that first taste of a result that you think this is and this and because like I was just mentioning earlier, right? The what are the United games that stuck with me? The 7-0 against the loss against Liverpool, the loss to Chelsea in a European final. Those things hurt. But this didn't break my passion because through that first season, even watching it from afar, there was just something about the way this team embraced the community. At every turn you saw or started to see, it felt like the players and the fans were together, and there was that sense of we are one and we are in this fight together. We're going to yell for you, you're going to fight for us, and it was a wonderful thing. And I think the first year I went to 3 games and we got 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss.
500,
And
not bad.
yeah. I mean, I'll take 4 points in 3 games, I guess, right? Yeah, something like that. So
These days,
not
yes.
not not the worst, but that was crazy. And the thing is it's I think the most striking thing, Mo, when you're talking about the experiences is I was so excited about City that I started going to more of the international games,
Okay.
hoping and expecting the atmosphere to be the same. And strikingly, it's not. It's a way different experience. And I wish it was a little bit more like City for those international games because don't get me wrong, I love international football, but it's not. The supporter groups are nowhere near as loud and it's much smaller and it's okay.
Yeah.
But I would really like to see that what we see locally from the club level reach the national level for that. And maybe it will during the World Cup.
Hey, if they do it, that'll be a different way to show the rest of the world how much more entertaining it is. Because I think from where I've found or I've seen, maybe the level of entertainment is not probably the same because it's straight up almost to the game versus here they have to have a little bit of the entertainment aspect because it's America. You have to be entertaining too.
And I'll say this, I saw I saw what was rumored to be sites for the Women's World Cup in 2031.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the Women's World Cup, they only require a stadium to have 20,000 capacity.
Yep.
Energizer Park has 22.5. So St. Louis was reportedly rumored to be listed as a potential host city if the United States for the United States 2031 World Cup bid. So that would be an incredible to see in St. Louis.
But St. Louis did show up for the women's when they were a few times came in town because the St. Louis tied to St. Louis.
Oh yeah,
I think so they've shown that if there's that connection, St. Louis will show up, and they also did for the Team Ream game versus Jamaica. It was cold, rainy, and everything. The stadium, I think, was mostly full.
Yep,
so,
I was there.
So I think people can show up for it. It's just maybe if you put that little St. Louis tide to those international games, people will show up.
Yeah, so that's great. I love the tie. I would just love to have it be where they show up regardless of there needing to be a local tie because you're not always going to have a St. Louis featuring in the starting lineup. It's just not realistic.
Yeah, I think that's when Jeremy will do the work to make people show up on a daily basis.
We'll both do the work because I think look, I'll give you your flowers. You've got a much larger reach than I do, sir. You've got the YouTube channel. You've got all these things. So and you've got all the connection or a lot of connections, my friend. So we'll call it a team effort. But yeah. Don't sell yourself short because you'll do a lot, especially with all your coverage of the international stuff leading up to with AFCON and all the other things you work on.
Appreciate it. But I think one thing that we're missing in St. Louis is that we do have a lot of international folks that are doing big things, just not getting enough of the coverage. So hopefully, Top Corner Talk will do a little bit of that in the upcoming seasons. But I think we're probably going sideways a little bit
All
more.
right.
But so for the first season, I know that's a lot of people still remember it. A lot of people remember, maybe we got too spoiled for the first season. So how would you compare that entire season? Because we've broken records. Um, Stadium was packed. The entertainment was packed. The whole stadium, most of the stadium was standing up. So how was that first season like for you?
Oh, I mean, it was pure dreamland. I mean, there's no other way to call it. I mean, it's a fantasy world that, man, that feeling that you get to a point where you go into a game and you're like, you don't feel like there's any chance you're going to lose. Like
Right.
as you start, not because you're rattling off all these wins, but just because you start to see, okay, we're beating this team, we're tying that team. We can do, with the exception of winning on the road, we can do just about anything else just fine. So it was that feeling of going into Energizer Park, or what was then City Park, feeling it's a fortress, feeling it's impenetrable, and there's no one that's going to come into that stadium and beat us. It was so bad. I want that feeling back, my friend. I really want that to be what we see in 2026 and beyond, because with the volume, especially, man, the goosebumps when they announced Berkey's new deal.
That was
Whether you like the
ridiculous.
DP thing or not can be discussed later. But my God, I don't think I've heard that stadium louder.
Mm-mm.
If there
Not in
was a
the
roof on,
past 2 years.
if there was a roof on it, it would have been gone. It would have been blown way off. Um, but I seriously say that to say that that first season, man, it was a magic feeling. And I really hope we can get that back, because you go into that stadium knowing you're gonna have there are guys on that club that are going to fight. They're not going to be pushed around. I mean, my God, you go back to Jared Stroud, you go
My
back
guy.
to Tim Parker, the get mad Tim Parker. That fire that he had, where he would get in people's faces. We don't see that now enough from our team. Berkey yells and screams. I don't really
Right.
see Edu doing it. I don't see Marcel doing it. No, and that's not a shot at them. It's just they're different types of leaders.
Yep.
But you don't have that. You don't have and I'm going to use the word shithouser. You don't have it on the team
Yep.
right now enough, and we need that back. But that first year, man, just electric, absolutely electric.
So how would you, so not to write
No.
too much of the last 2 years. So could you summarize it in, like, 15 seconds of the past 2 years, and maybe wrap it up with what your hopes are for
Yep.
next season?
In a word, inconsistent. Last two seasons have been nothing short of a roller coaster. We've had coaching changes, we've had locker room drama, and now sporting director change and decisions being made without leaders in place for the franchise, and both the front office and the coaching staff. So, what I hope for next season, Mo, is we get stability and results. I think those are the two biggest things, because both of those go hand in hand with getting the energy and the passion reignited in the fan base that we saw in season one, that is starting to fade, I think, at the end of season three.
Oh, fair point. I like that. I like that. So just to cover also the experience of the CM. So City and St. Louis is known for the supporter section and the stadium and the experience. So for anyone that has not joined or visited the stadium just yet, how would you describe the supporter section? The because they're win, lose, draw, tornadoes, rain, empty stadium, um, and all in between that happen in one day in St. Louis.
Mhm.
Those
Yeah.
supporters show up. It could be a full supporter section, or it could be halfway, and it almost sounds the same no matter the game.
Mo, it's a party. It's a party in the supporter section. What I will say is, I have yet to really have a bad experience in the supporter section. I've sat all across it. I've sat over where the Santos folks are located now in like 118, 119. I typically am now hanging out in 120 with no goal patrol. There's a whole area where the folks that march sit in the middle. But no matter where you go, where you sit, who you hang out with, it's a good time. You start to make friends. You start to make relationships and form those bonds with the people that you see all the time. And I mean, like I said, I had not sat there until February of last year in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Now there's nowhere else in the stadium I would rather be. A game that's not in the supporter section to me is boring because it's not the same energy. It's a safe space. It's a safe space to be yourself. It's a safe space to be respectfully expressive. It's a safe space to just show up, make noise, have fun, to steal what the Luligans might say. You see the Somos passion with passion from the Santos. You see all these multicultural things taking place from we've seen an influx of, I would say, Korean folks in the supporters group,
Nice.
which is great, seeing them in various times now that we've got Sang-Min Jong in the team. Seeing that side of it now represented more has been really, really cool. And just seeing the evolution of these groups and the way that in most cases I feel they come together and represent each other in harmony while maintaining their separate identities and all together support this club. But it's a party. Everybody should at least, my recommendation, just come once. If it's not for you and you'd rather sit somewhere else, then do that. That's fine. But you've got to experience it once because, man, I'm an addict now. I'm hooked. They've got me. That's part of why, even though I'll admit I had press credentials and it was a blast and I was humbled that I had the opportunity to have those and to join the press conferences and have the privileges to sit on media row if I wanted to. But a game day that's not in the supporter section, like I said, to me, Mo, it just doesn't feel like a game day anymore.
I like that. I actually love it. That's exactly what I need to hear. So, and we also have to make sure Florida Noise make, I guess one of the bigger group, definitely have a big hand on organizing it, make a safe space for you guys to pre-party.
Yeah. Well, they're
And
they're the heartbeat, the pulse of
right.
game day, I think is one of their slogans. I mean, they've got that awesome. I mean, Santos have a drum line, the Florida Noise folks have a drum line, and they do a great job too. Even going into the season, in the preseason, the day that we played Austin in the preseason, they threw an event to get the fans together to start learning the new chants. That was the first time I had heard the "City's on Fire" chant or the one about barbecue. I don't know what they formally named that one, but we hate that team from Kansas and their barbecue. That one.
We try not to mention them, but apparently they always find a way to.
We live rent free in their heads. They live rent free in ours. But the bottom line is we've never finished below them in the table. Facts.
Yeah, but they keep on showing the games that they've won against us.
Well, they can have it. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, they still didn't win MLS Cup. So, in other words, yes, they beat it in the playoffs. Whoopie doo! You didn't win a cup. It don't mean jack.
Straight facts. Straight facts. So yes, so I think, and also we have to make sure Estel Santos and our good friend Oscar that always on fire on that Capos 10, win, lose, and then happen to show up on Monday to do a podcast. So he's one of those crazy ones, and also Charlie, our journalist prodigy, that's doing everything and anything, including City too. Definitely.
Maybe that's Charlie's role. He can be the journalist of the group.
I think he took that. Oh, he is.
He can have it. It's all his.
Yes. So if someone was to walk up to you and say, a quick elevator speech about one, going to a City game, two, enjoying the atmosphere, and three, the food at the stadium, how would you get those people to show up to a game as a casual?
Simply put, there is no other experience like a City game.
Ooh.
It's the only place you can go in town and have, I think, more than 20 local eateries have their things available for you to buy. Some of the stuff is more reasonably priced than others,
Yeah.
but you're not going to find that anywhere else. They've got something for everybody from just about any nationality you can imagine in St. Louis, which is a diverse city, which I had another thing. I never knew that about that because of the before City Park. I had no idea there were that many different nationalities represented food wise, culinary wise in St. Louis. But
Nice.
Gerard Kraft, this chief flavor officer for City, has done a great job bringing a crazy diverse lineup in. But there's no other experience like it in St. Louis. A game day down there is at Energizer Park is truly something that win, lose, draw, rain, shine, tornadoes, snow, it's a place you're going to make memories. Come to a game and experience and join that experience because it will unlock levels of passion in you potentially that you didn't realize were there, and it will open doors. In my case, I'll speak right to this. It will open doors to friendships that you would have never even imagined, Mo. I will tell you, I didn't just this past weekend. I had a little birthday get together before the game, right?
Right.
None of the people that came, the 35, 40 people that showed up, I knew none of them a year ago.
Nice. Yep.
Absolutely none of them. I would have not known who Chris Gebhardt was, St. Louis Soccer News. Didn't know who Tim, Byron Tim on socials was. The Fandos, I had no idea. I didn't know Kyle from No Goal Patrol. I didn't know any of these people. And now I talk to them probably in some cases more than I talk to my own family. I mean, I'm not kidding. And it's not just about football. It's not just about game day. That is my biggest reason that you need to come down there. The experience and the community. Become part of this community because it has the ability to change your life. And you need to come open that door.
Hey, I'm one of those example. I'm a very shy person. I probably could go walk around the stadium and not talk to anybody and go to my seat. But I get to see a lot of people that talk a lot with online and not online, saying hi. Even the kids, it's like, Dad, you know a lot of people. I was like, we pretty much all know each other. That's pretty much how we can go and walk in each section and say hi. Um, I've seen guys that have played rec soccer 10, 15 years ago just walk by him and see him at this like, hey, oh, how are you? How it's been? Oh, we've not seen each other in 10 something. You
Yeah.
see kids that were just babies at the time, and now they're grown kids
Yeah.
talking, and they're all playing soccer now. So I think it's that story where a lot more people, the soccer community that we had in our small communities, now just kind of bundled together and then became even bigger. And
Mhm.
that's where we now able to have the Jeremy, Charlie, Musa, and Oscar talking like
Yeah.
we're on all four corners of St. Louis.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for that sport, we probably would have never started any of
Well,
this.
and honestly, Mo, that's the great thing about the game of footy, man. Is I'll shout out my buddy Edgar Zuniga, News Across the Galaxy, man.
Yep, that's my
I
guy.
again, I love Edgar. A year ago, I've very loosely listened to their show. I always tuned in when we were playing them. I liked what they do. But he and I have even formed a friendship where literally we sent each other packages of each other team's merch. I have a box of Galaxy merch at my house. I have a hat. In fact, one of the cool things he did, I actually got to close the loop on this at the game Saturday, was one of the so Valerie from St. Louis City Punks, another one of the supporter
Yep.
groups, when she traveled to LA to see the St. Louis play the Galaxy, she gifted Edgar a city pin for
Nice.
his vest.
Yep.
When he sent me a package of stuff for me, which included a cool scarf that, by the way, was on an episode of Top Corner Talk. I think it's been on two
Yeah.
actually, but nonetheless, that was the cool thing. The one of many things he sent me. But he also sent me a pin to give back to Valerie. So I finally was able to track her down on a game day in the rain, in the supporter section, while she was waving the Riot Girls flag.
Look at you.
To give her, well, Kyle told me where she was. Kyle had
Yeah.
done a little recon for me and said, "Hey, Valerie's over there."
That's
So,
what friends are for.
right, yeah. So he told me where, and I gave it to her, and it was great. She was so thankful. But dude, it's just my point is it goes well beyond just the city of St. Louis and just the North End and Energizer Park. It's friendships across the country with people of different backgrounds, and that's the great thing about soccer. Football is truly a global game, and it is truly able to unite people from all walks of life, and it is a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's just one reason they still call it the beautiful game.
Damn it, Jeremy. I have nothing to say about that. I guess I can just
That's a wrap.
you said it all. I mean, we should just end the podcast now because that's the best closure. But with that say, we still have 5 questions to ask
Oh boy.
Jeremy on his soccer fandom knowledge, aspirations, and all of the above. So now the question is, are you ready for those questions?
Well, Mo, you've got me here. I'm not held at gunpoint or anything, but bring it on.
Who knows? Off camera? I don't know. But
Gotta get ready.
Let's get this one started. And I know that might mess around a little bit with your fandom of that certain team you follow.
Bring it. Not like anybody else has it either.
Messi, Ronaldo.
Man, I'm going with Ronaldo. I know Messi's got the records, the plaudits, the notoriety. Messi's probably Messi's probably the right answer, but
there's no such thing as the right answer.
My heart goes, I'm biased and I'm still going to go with Ronaldo, but Messi's probably the more globally known superstar.
All right. So one player that you think should be recognized more than they are, or
I mean, for me, just growing up watching United, I think one of the most underappreciated guys. For me, there were 2: Dimitar Berbatov, who was a striker. I think he did not get enough credit for what he was able to do with United and his stint there. And I think another guy that I think recently he's gotten some icon cards and such on FIFA, and again, it's another United guy, but I don't think a lot of folks appreciated how good Paul Scholes was in the midfield.
I can see that.
I know he was undersized. He's kind of a smaller guy, but his ability to ping a ball and just play it, man, he was really, really good.
Yep. So one retired player that you wish you could have watched play live.
I'm gonna say this name. I will admit that I did see him once at the tail end of his career, but I wish I would have gotten to see Zlatan Ibrahimovic play. I saw him play
prime time one.
The prime time. Yeah. I saw him play in his twilight years with PSG in a friendly against United in Chicago. The only time I've ever seen United play in person. I really just to have a full appreciation for what he was able to do. I know we could go back; it's more recent times. I think also I'm going to say Zlatan, but another guy. I wish I would have been much more involved in following soccer when Ronaldinho was playing, because I will fully admit I don't know enough of what he accomplished in the game, but I know that how globally he's recognized and how everyone still talks about Dinho to this day. I wish I would have seen more of Ronaldinho play as well.
Oh, you're missing out. And I think a lot of it that Messi is so good at, a lot of it has to do with Ronaldinho and his time at Barcelona and able to mentor Messi to some aspect of the game. So yes, so you need to watch a lot more of those videos because it's madness. And another one is, what is your go-to meal when going to Energizer Park?
Man, so it has changed a lot. Yeah. But I will say the one place, my favorite spot still, I'm gonna give you 2 because I'm going to give you an entree and I'm going to give you the side dish. So
Fair
my
enough.
normal go-to at Energizer is I usually go up to fattened calf. I love their Filipino barbecue,
Okay.
and I get their skewers, and then I will go downstairs to the first level, usually over to Balkan Treat Box, and get their fries because I love their fries. So it's those two places, and then I'll throw in a dessert. One of two options for dessert: Bold Spoon Creamery, fantastic ice cream. Waits are really long, but they're good. Or mayo ketchup. When
Okay.
they had their Nutella empanadas, I loved those. Those were like the
Oh,
ultimate halftime snack from me and my girlfriend. Where those we would literally we sit there in the middle of the first half and say, "Hey, put in that order for those Nutella empanadas so they're ready. I'll go get them." Like that's literally what we would do at halftime every single game. That was the must-have item was those empanadas. They don't have them on the menu anymore, but
damn it! Of course.
right. But no, so that's the full there's your three course,
Mhm.
your or not quite a three course meal, but your entree, your side, and a dessert.
Jeremy's now we're talking. I think the Breakfast King might call you for one of
Hey,
his visits.
I'm a little known foodie. Okay, if anybody who's seen me, I got a little bit of a belly. That didn't come for any reason. Okay, I'm a guy that likes to eat. I appreciate good football, but I appreciate good food too.
They all come in one place, and you have the right team to follow for that.
It's true.
All right. So the last question. Um, so if someone were to ask you to disown Manchester United, what's the other team that you would pick and why?
Uh,
Remove City as well.
so here, I'm actually going to remove any of the teams that I support right now. So
Okay.
I'm not going to take the easy answer of Dortmund. I think if I was not a United fan, uh, Southampton. I would
Okay.
probably go with Southampton. I've always liked their crest. I've liked the way their club has traditionally done business. Um, the other reason, so I grew up going to a parochial school, a Lutheran grade school. My team, my so I growing up, the athletics we were called the Saints, Southampton Saints.
Yeah.
So their colors are red and white. My colors were red and white. So there's a lot of similarities there. It just too many things made sense. So I've always had a kind of a soft spot for Southampton. So that'd probably be where I would go in the Prem. If I was going to look at other leagues just real quick in Germany, if I couldn't support Dortmund, it'd probably be uh, Werder Bremen. I
Okay.
like, and in Italy, if it wasn't Napoli, oh, I'm trying to think. I don't want to just go with one of the one of the Milan clubs.
That
That's
was
a
just an
cop out.
easy one.
That's a
Yep.
cop out.
Yep.
I don't know. Shoot, they just redid their badge not too long ago.
Oh,
I'll have to think about it. There, I know it starts with a V, but I can't think of their name off the top of
Venice.
my head.
No,
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 it's
no.
I think they got. I think they even got. Was it Fiorentina? Maybe. Oh no! Scratch that. It'd be Roma. How do I
Oh,
forget
okay.
about Roma? Good lord,
With
they
Dabo.
had they
Dabo.
had Rossi. They had a lot of talent at Roma, including former U.S. player Michael Bradley, I believe, for a spell too.
Not
So
bad.
I'd probably, if I was going to pick another Italian team other than Napoli, it would be Roma. And I have a Roma scarf from when they came to St. Louis because hell would freeze over before I buy a Liverpool scarf.
Oscar, sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sorry.
But with that said, Jeremy, I definitely appreciate your time. We've have a lot of talk throughout the year, so now I get to learn a little bit more about your soccer history. Jeremy has a twin sister,
Yeah.
and now we know what your three favorite meals ish going to a stadium, and why in the heck did you pick Manchester United? But
It's my
that's a
buddy's
whole nother. We're
blame.
gonna blame your buddy for that one. But with that said, Jeremy, can you let the people know where they can, see your content, reach out to you?
Yeah.
in the World Wide Web?
Yeah, sure. No, you can find me on Twitter or Blue Sky most of the time. My X handle or what Twitter handle is just JXClem. And I believe my Blue Sky is fairly similar to that. I think it's just JXClem at B Sky. But you can find me there, lurking around other places. I think I'm normally in a lot of different places on Facebook in the chat groups and stuff there. And then, Top Corner Talk is another place where you can typically find me and interact with me, and as well as Oscar Charlie when he is available, and then of course Musa, the man with the plan.
Most of the time. Most of the time. But yes, but with that say, I know we still all the good people. The final recap of the CDSC season, which we're working on it and we'll make sure it happens. But other than that, thank you all for joining to another episode of MoFutbol, where we talk soccer from grassroots all the way to the pros and all in between. And today was the St. Louis CDSC fan talk with my football story. With that said, have a blessed day. Peace.